I love the Lamar Jackson conversations because I think Lamar Jackson has a very interesting dialogue around him in sports. If you're pro Lamar Jackson, I think you go a little too easy on him. Mm-hmm. If you're anti Lamar Jackson, I think you go a little too hard on him. James, I try to be objective with Lamar Jackson. He has to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. When you think about the quarterbacks that have 2 MVPs in the history of the National Football League, I believe that there are 10 of them, 2 or more. Of those 10, I believe 7 of them are already in the Hall of Fame or going into the Hall of Fame as locks, Tom Brady. Then you have Aaron Rodgers, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson. So what that says is, Lamar Jackson, you're already a Hall of Famer. But in what world, Lamar Jackson, as we look at this name with all of these phenomenal Hall of Famers, you haven't been to a Super Bowl? And I would suggest to say, you ain't been close. I get you in the AFC Championship game, but family, if you really watched that game, I went back and re-looked at it this morning, they never held a lead. You were 1 game away. You weren't close. The Ravens were not. So James Jones, in my mind, Lamar so desperately has to get himself a Super Bowl because the resume set, boy, you got 2 MVPs, 2 of them, and you're still young. Now you're going on year 7. And based upon your style of play and the wear and tear on your legs, I'm wondering how much more efficient you will be able to be as the most electric runner we have ever seen at the quarterback position. But, James, I think you got to get a Super Bowl for Lamar.
Yeah, I put Lamar Jackson in Aaron Rodgers category. Totally different players, right? MVP quarterbacks. Nothing else matters. And I know Lamar has plenty more time to accomplish some of that stuff than Aaron Rodgers does, but nothing else matters. We've seen unanimous MVPs. We've seen another MVP. We've seen you get to the AFC Championship. Nothing else matters. If you come out here and you throw for 30 touchdowns and rush for 1,000 yards and win another MVP and lose in the playoffs, it means nothing. Lamar Jackson has to get to a Super Bowl. We have you in the elite quarterback conversation because you have earned it, but we have you in that conversation and you have not been to a Super Bowl. It is time to get to a Super Bowl for Lamar Jackson. That's the only thing that matters the rest of his career. And I'm sure he's going to accomplish a lot of other things, but that does not matter to me. Can Lamar Action Jackson get to a Super Bowl? Because he is that type of quarterback and that type talent. He has to get that done.
I think he needs one if we're going to look at him as more than just a great individual player. Team success puts you in a whole different category. You just listed the men who are already in the Hall of Fame, 2 of them who will absolutely be in the Hall of Fame, and Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, and then Lamar Jackson's name is there as well. So he will be in the Hall of Fame. I don't even know if that's particularly a hot take. The last time I said that, people were flipping out. I don't know what for. I don't make the rules. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But I do think it puts him in a whole different category, a whole different conversation if he also has a Super Bowl. Now, he's done a lot of things when it comes to team success as well. They are always in the playoffs. They have great regular season achievements. He has been to an AFC Championship game. How they performed, obviously, was disappointing, but he did get there, which is more than some whole organizations can say for decades at a time. So I think this will really solidify him as not just a talent that we can see and enjoy, because obviously he's an electric player. He's a very unique player, and he has taken those electrifying, unique talents and translated them into individual success in the NFL. But team success is how we measure the greatest of greats. First, you are individually talented. Then you put up statistics. Then all of that translates into team success at this position particularly. So I do think he needs a Super Bowl to solidify really what he is as an impact player in the NFL. Obviously, he's a playmaker. Obviously, he's an incredible all-time talent. And like I said, will be a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I'd like to see him get a championship. If for nothing else, just to close the conversation of how impactful he has been to this position in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he needs a championship bad. I mean, all things he's done so far, like even inspiring young kids to play the position the way he plays it, right? Where we weren't allowed to do that. Yeah. And people didn't want to see the quarterback scramble and do these different things. And then you talk about going to all pros and Pro Bowls and MVPs. It's time for a championship. It's like everything having a bucket list. One more left. And then another thing is I feel like Lamar seems like a player, man, because he never really complained. I felt like he never had the help to win anything, and he never made any excuses up, right? And you need them type of guys, and I think he's a competitor. And another thing is, you got to compete against Patrick Mahomes. Yep. Y'all going to be in the same division for a long time.
Joe Burrow.
Right? Side that ball. So we just got to see Lamar, man, bring that thing home. It's a championship.
2-5, the hard part for me is, like, Lamar is now trying to be the first of his kind. Players that are as talented with their legs as Lamar Jackson is, they don't have more success at the end of their career as they do at the beginning of their career. You can look at a Matthew Stafford and say, you know what? Matthew Stafford's going to be better in his 30s than he was in his 20s, right? He won a Super Bowl, obviously, in his 30s. In his 20s, he just had a whole bunch of yards. But when you look at a Lamar Jackson, you have to look around at the Mike Vicks. Mike Vick, in his 4th year in the National Football League, went to a NFC Championship game with the Falcons. You have to look around against the Eagles. You have to look around the Cam Newtons. Cam Newton, in his 5th year in the NFL, went to a Super Bowl. You got to look around at the Russell Wilsons. Now, Russell Wilson obviously had the Legion of Boom. Russell Wilson, though, led his team in rushing yards with 849 one season. In his 2nd and 3rd year, he had the most success of his career. So if we are hoping that Lamar Jackson does it later in life, we've just never seen it before. I'm not saying it can happen, but of the quarterbacks that have rushed for like 700-plus yards in a season, you're talking about the Russes, the Cams, you're talking about the Mike Vicks. You don't see them as they hit 30 and 31 and 32 have more success. So, James, that's why I'm more worried now because, Lamar, your team was as good as any team in the AFC, excluding you. Now, we just added a 2-time MVP to a defense that's stout and an offense that's competent, and Patrick Mahomes and them still gave y'all the business. That's what worries me.
No, you're right, because the way he plays the game, being a mobile quarterback, when he gets in 35 years old and all that type of stuff, you have to depend on your arm. We have not seen Lamar Jackson throw the ball that consistently with his arm and make those big-time throws. So I understand where you're coming from. But I don't care if this was his last year playing. It's time. You have accomplished too much. I don't care if you got 10 years left, 1 year left. You're that type of quarterback. You have a really good football team. You have playmakers around you. It is time to go win a Super Bowl. Am I saying it like it's going to be easy? Probably, yeah, and I know how hard it is. But what I'm saying is you have accomplished everything else. Shady touched on it. Everything on your bucket list is checked off besides going to a Super Bowl and competing to win one.
I got a question, because this is to what Joyce says, and it might make for a little polarizing debate, though we don't have that much time. Apologies, audience. Is Lamar Jackson, is he at risk of having the inverse Eli Manning career? Eli Manning in the regular season, average, literally average. But in the playoffs, Eli Manning, a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. You won Super Bowl, Shady, James, you won Super Bowls. Like, to be a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, to beat a team in the New England Patriots that was 19-0 with Tom Brady and Randy Moss, what Eli did in the playoffs is crazy. But in the regular season, come on now.
Do you fight with your siblings a lot?
No.
Because you're an instigator.
But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, Joy,
don't he?
All due respect to Eli, and I know we on TV, man.
We got a little
I'm saying this to say, Lamar Jackson is 2-4 in the playoffs.
Listen here, man.
Is he, James? 2-4 in the playoffs?
I don't care.
So I don't care either. I don't care either. But if you're 2-4 in the playoffs right now, or maybe it's 2-5, whatever the case may be, 2-3, you're a 2-time MVP. You great. You great. There's no doubt about it. But if you don't sniff this Super Bowl, people gonna start debating. Should Lamar get in? Yeah, Biacho, he had a losing playoff record. Should he never won a Super Bowl? Like, that's the conversation I feel like we gonna end up having.
You're right. That probably is the conversation. But if you turned on the tape with your eyeballs, you ain't even arguing if Lamar Jackson is a pro football Hall of Famer with what you have seen. 2 MVPs, unanimous. I understand all that playoff stuff. It means a lot. But at the end of the day, we got to look at the player that we watched over his career play the game of football. I'm not ready to put Eli Manning, even with Super Bowls, in Lamar Jackson's category. All right, Joe Flacco, just because he had a Super Bowl in Lamar Jackson's category. All right, Trent Dilfer, just because he got a Super Bowl in Lamar Jackson's category. If you watch Lamar Jackson, you know why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and you know why he's a 2-time MVP. Playoffs in there or not. And yes, we probably will talk about it.
Have to.
But respect and watch the man play the game of football.
You think it'll be a question if Lamar gets in the Hall of Fame? You think people will question that?
I think in the manner that they question Eli. Because you said we don't. Shady, you said, and I listened to you when you speak.
Nobody's questioning that.
I listen to you when you speak, and you say we don't play with Super Bowls. You don't even let me have conversations about Super Bowls on this desk because how hard they are.
Eli Manning got 2 of them, right?
He has 2 of them and MVPs and beat the best team by record in the history of the game of football, 19-0 New England Patriots. Obviously, there's a 72 Miami Dolphins.
Think Eli going to Super Bowl or the Hall of Fame?
Of course. But that's my point. Your reaction is my point.
I don't know. I know Lamar's going to Hall of Fame because he was a really, really good player. I don't know if Eli Manning's going to Hall of Fame.
But I think you're proving my point. Because my point is people are going to say, I mean, if Lamar Jackson was that good a player, why didn't he?
What Shady is saying is if, like I just said, if you're watching the game of football, you're not sitting there saying Eli Manning was as good as Lamar Jackson.
not.
And I don't care what stats you find to help Eli right now. You are not saying that those two dudes are in the same
course not.
conversation. So that's what we're talking about. You can always find some good numbers.
But we're not
But I
talking-
mean, Eli's catching strays unnecessarily.
Because Acho.
I know, like, he started this.
I like Eli.
I
but
like Eli too.
man.
Eli is going to be a Hall of Famer, but that don't have nothing to do with Lamar. Lamar, because he has two.
But-
Because he has two Super Bowl MVPs and he has two Super Bowls.
So
and he
that's
did
the,
beat Tom
but
Brady.
why do
in his
people say
prime.
he might not?
Because
Because the talent is and what he did outside of those Super Bowl years.
Correct. And so my
And normally with the Hall of Fame, it is more of the totality. You are expected to have been at the top of the game in your position for at least a decade.
Was he?
No, but
two
he
Super Bowl
was two Super Bowls and two Super Bowl MVPs.
Okay.
Look, maybe you're right. I think that Eli Manning will be a Hall of Famer. I also think Lamar Jackson will be a Hall of Famer. And I think it would be nice to add a Super Bowl to that resume. And there's still time for Lamar to do that. There's no more time for Eli Manning to do anything. So we just put him over there. But
I just think Lamar's like for sure. Eli, I mean, he could because he could. It could be a possibility. I think Lamar's for sure going.
For
I
sure.
think if you had a freaking vote, well, Lamar, it wasn't even close.
My thought process is this. The reason people question whether or not Eli will get in is because, sure, with your eyeballs.
Peyton's brother, you talking about?
Shady, I can't stand it. Yes, with your eyeballs.
Make sure
But
you-
also the regular season lack of success.
Yeah.
James, Shady, Joy, you all know, and James and Shady, I defer to you. Y'all won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Plural. It's hard to win Super Bowls. It's hard to be the best player in the game in the Super Bowl. It's hard to be the best player in the game in the Super Bowl if you're going against the best team and Tom Brady, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time. That's hard to do. And he won two.
yeah.
But people say he might not get in, like LaShawn McCoy, Eagles all-time rushing leader to my right, because he wasn't that good in the regular season. Lamar, he wasn't that good in the playoffs. He wasn't that good in the playoffs.
I
If
would
the
give you if Eli had done it once, but he did it twice.
twice.
When it comes to Lamar, I don't think he needs to do anything else to get into the Hall of Fame. Two league MVPs and Lamar Jackson's numbers and everything else that he's done.
Then why'd he fail in the playoffs? That's what I would ask you.
Well, I mean,
if he was that
there's
good,
a lot of players that haven't won championships that are
not as good as Lamar. You feel me? That's the dilemma. There aren't two-time MVPs.
right.
Throw up the list, people.
But like also
Two of them.
But also
Unanimous, Joy.
Lamar is still playing.
Yes, that's
So
what it comes
if
down
we're
to.
talking about his career ends right now, but we don't need to do that. His career is not over. There's still time for him to change this and add a Super Bowl to the list. But so we don't need to talk about like what it is right now. Now fast forward, 10 years from now, and we're discussing Eli and Lamar. on
You know
the
what's funny about the list, though? You look at the list, a lot of great quarterbacks. Can you imagine Peyton Manning or Eli Manning be on that list? Like, he would stick out. Wouldn't he?
Sure. But I would suggest if I were to throw up a list of two-time MVPs who never won a Super Bowl, Lamar might stick out. Like, if y'all were to say in 20 years, Lamar Jackson was this phenomenal player. Shady, he was one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Joy, he was an absolute icon. James Jones, he was phenomenal. If I'm growing up in Gen Z or whatever Z will come after, so then James, why didn't he win a Super Bowl? Well, watch, why
Right, but he
Super Bowl?
didn't win a Super Bowl right now, today. What is it, May 24th, 25th? What is today? today, he didn't win a Super Bowl. 23rd. Today, May 23rd, 2024, he didn't win a Super Bowl. But he still has time.
No doubt
So
about
we'll
it.
revisit this.
And I hope he does it so there is no conversation about anything.
Yes, because
about
we
it.
cannot have him in that.
Stressed out.
That's how people feel about Eli. When people say Eli ain't going in, I'm telling you.
Mercy. This boy.
Eli beat you on the way to the Super Bowl, didn't he?
I like Eli. He
Instigate.
beat me twice. I like Eli. He beat Aaron. I mean.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.